The first exercise we have is connecting to our utils database. Following that, we'll be checking log primary, log second. We know what is log primary and what is log second, and the log file size. Now I'm just updating purposefully these three values to a very small numbers. Primary has 2, log secondary has 1, and the log file size is only 6. 6 means 6 pages. 6 into 4 KB pages. We haven't seen this db2 PD command yet, problem deterministic command. This is one of the very useful commands. We'll see during monitoring and troubleshooting section. Which helps me to db2 PD is one way which helps me to see what is the prior value and what is the value which is on disk. You remember we did this during instance configuration update. When I change some parameters, those parameters need bounds of my database or bounds of my instance, right? So these parameters involve bounds. So that's where whatever I'm seeing here on the second column here, they specify the values which are in memory. Unless I stop memory, when I say stop means deallocate and reallocate memory, the values which are on the disk won't get reflected. So then I'm forcing all my connections, then I'm deactivating the database and activating it. If I check with the db2 PD, I will see both values in the memory column, values in the disk column or will be same. There is one way using db2 PD, I can check even the log file information. Log file, when I say log file, the primary logs information. Let's get in there. Then I'm connecting to the db2 which plus C option. What is plus C does is by default with db2 it's auto commit, right? What we are saying with plus C is don't do auto commit, I explicitly commit. You remember there is a list command options, so we have discussed. Yeah, that's what we'll be doing it. I'm creating a student table. I'm inserting the data. I'm inserting the data same, selecting from a student and inserting into it again. At some point, since I'm not committing, I will reach this log transaction full state. Now what I do is the same number of like 6 or 7 times I do this. What I do is then I'll increase the log file size. When I do the same thing, it will succeed. I would be pretty much doing like 10 times. Right. I mean, there is not major stuff we are doing it here, but just to get used to this log primary, log second, log file size configuration parameters. Okay. Let me start this with one of the databases. Let me see how many databases I have. Okay, I already have the utils database that I created as part of backup. Sorry, load. I'm connecting to utils database. Hi Vasu, good evening, sir. You have any questions, Vasu, in the meantime that I can answer?
No, thank you.
Okay. Here, if I, yeah, these are the 3 parameters, important parameters at a DB level. Generally what we have to do is db2 get db config. I have to specify for a database, but I can ignore this for and giving the database name if I am already connected to a database. Okay, so my log file size is 1024 pages, where each page is 4 KB size. Log primary is 13 logs, log secondary is 12 logs. Now what I do is I'll update this to some spawn number. So I'm updating multiple parameters in the same command. Log primary 2, log secondary 1, log file size is 6. But it says that some other parameters are not dynamic. So let's see. If you want to see the complete output, let me show you how db2pd gives it. The objective, db2pd is one of the interesting commands in db2 because which is one command that you must know, or this is one command that helps to do anything and everything from monitoring side. I mean, when I say anything and everything, whatever we learned so far, like looking at the database configuration, if you want to check the database state, that they started with this objective. Can I have a one command administration for database monitoring, like the production DBAs? That was the objective they started this db2pd, and they kind of succeeded. db2pd has 1,000 different ways of running the command. With the options it has, you can do 1,000 different ways of various options within the db2pd. Right? It is one of the top 5 commands we must know in db2. We will see that we don't see these all 1,000 options. Some other important options like 15, 20. From there you can build on rest. Right, so when I say db2pd, this database get me the db config, right? It is as equivalent as running db2 get db config for utils. But what this guy shows is this guy only shows the values which are on the disk, right, which will get reflected in the next bounce. But what we want is what are the current values that system is database is running with, like this: memory value and the disk value. So memory value in the sense this is what the database is currently running with. On the next bounce of the database, which is nothing but activating and deactivating, these are the values we see. Pretty much all will be the same except the ones we modified just now. For log file size, which is 1024, after this memory bounce you see 6. Right. I'll just follow some standard stuff. List applications will show me all the applications. There is only one connected to utils right now, so it might be my connection itself that I did with connect, or if there are more, you can force all of them using db2 force applications. All db2 force application or a specific application ID to kill a specific session or an application. Then let me deactivate and activate. Then if I go ahead and check for the same, both memory and disk values are same now. db2 pd also gives me an information about my transactional logs. Now you see it. It is saying that we are on the database partitioning feature of 0. It's a first partitioning, database partitioning. We haven't used DPF so far, so it's still fine. The database utils, which is active from 22 seconds, right? It is saying that the S101 or 102, this is the file name. We are at the first log right now. It has nothing written, right? Um, next log to archive is 101 once this is full, right? So let's do some operations so that the values here changes. What it is saying, method 1 archive status is not applicable. Let me see whether utils has archive logging enabled.
Ravi, question here on this deactivate database.
Go ahead.
So if we hit db2 deactivate database utils, does it kick out all the connections, or we need to manually kick all of them out before
We have to manually terminate all of them first. If there is any active connection, it won't get deactivated. It's our job to first terminate all of them. All right. So each log file size, number of pages, pretty much. Let's do some operations. Then is now what is this db2 plus c? When I say command options, by default you have auto commit as on. After every enter, it's committed by default. But we are saying that no, don't do that. So that's where I'm making this auto commit as off. When I say exact reverse of what is on the left side, you just have switch some kind of a flag or a switch. So if I quit and if I just enter with db2 and say list command options, auto commit is on by default. Now I say quit. When I say plus a C, command options, which is off. Now let me start with this exercise now. I connected to utils. I'm creating a table. So 4 times I did run that insert statement. Now what would be interesting is, let me show you that log output. It says that current log number is 101, right? So you see this db2 pd hyphen to get db config for utils rep minus I. No, this is not the one. So our log primary is 6. Sorry, our log primary is 2 logs. That's why you see the 2 logs here, 101 and 102, where each log file size is just a 6 pages and log secondary is 1, right? Once these two are full and these two are still active, if still a long transaction is going on, I will get this log secondary allocated. Okay. Now what this log information is saying is, I'm at a 101 log. This is the log. The pages written so far are 4 pages written, right? So it has a capacity till to hold 6 pages. Now let me run the same insert statement one more time. If I come back here and run this logs information, now it has increased it to, it has written 5 pages. I'm still in 101 log, right? Now if I do this one more time, now I move to 102, right? After 102, look at this, it also allocated 103. This is something coming from uh, log secondary, right? It realized that this 102 might not be sufficient. I need one more from the log secondary. Primary is only 2, right? Even though to roll back this whole transaction itself, it might need a little more extra log. So that's when it go ahead and allocated this log secondary. You see the current LSO log sequence operation, 29466529698. This is kind of some pointer that's for internal purpose. But pretty much we look at in 102, 3 logs are written, right, out of 6. Now let me run this one more time. You see, this is where we see this, the transaction log for the database is full. I can't do any more operations. Now let me see how logs is behaving, right? It is saying that I'm at the current log 103, right? I cannot proceed anymore further. It has written 0 pages there and I cannot proceed anything further. 466541. Yes, starts with the 538, 538. It's at a 541. It says that I cannot proceed further. So the moment you see this, the transaction log is full, you are pretty much dead at the end of the log, right? So this is mostly a human error. Somewhere someone doing a big transaction. So the solution always is either to terminate the long transaction or increase the parameters here. Now I'll do a rollback, terminate. Now let's see what happens to the logs. You see it has written 2 logs there for that rollback operation in the secondary log file 103. Now the moment the rollback happened, 101 and 102 are moved to archive location. I'm still in the secondary log file, but there is no way you can distinguish looking at a log whether it is a primary log file or a secondary log file. The naming and everything just looks the same, right? So this is our secondary log file, 101 and 102 being from primary. So the moment I did rollback and terminate, so 103 had 2 pages written for that rollback operation, right? And it allocated a 2 primary since 2 were moved to archive location. What is my archive location? Grep -I log arc method. This is the location where you would go. If you go and go to this location, you would pretty much see 101 and 102. That just moved. Now, just moved few minutes back. So the solution that we do here is, okay, let's update this to some bigger number. The log file size I'm increasing to 4000 pages instead of 10 pages, which we have used in the previous one. Let's force applications all is a command which will kill all the sessions in one shot. So I have like 10 primary logs and 30 secondary logs. Now let's try the same exercise. Now when I say db2 C, now let's see the logs configuration here. Right, it might be still showing that only two. It just takes some time to see those all the values, because the current log number is 0. This is not the case because we have given 10 primary. Yeah, 10 primary and 30 secondary. The first operation will bring all these to a right values. Connect to utils. Now let me create a table. Now if I check, you should see those all in a right place. Are these 10 logs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 and 10? Yes. 1042 113, 10 log files. What is my current log file location? 104. So far it has written 2 pages out of 4000 pages available for this guy. Right. You can also see this. Let me see the differences here. Minus. Right, so whatever the pages we are giving, the last 5 digits pretty much show you the difference of it. Right, but this is of less significance for us. This is something that system uses during the rollback. Current LSO, which always falls between this 104 and 105. So if you look at, we are right now at 46657 2751, which is greater than this number and which is less than this number. Right, there must be definitely a story behind this number, but which I never paid attention, to be honest. But it never been a big concern for us anywhere during the restores or something. The system takes care of it. These are some log sequence number. You remember those log control files? Log control has two files which are important for recovery. That guy will take care of this, right? What is my current log position and all that. So that's something that I never paid attention, like I said. Yep, there should be definitely some info more on it, but what I concentrate more is what is my current log. Okay, I'm safe here. I'm still on the first log. Number of pages it can take is 4000, but I have only two pages written so far. Okay, so let me do the same thing like I said 10 times. Insert into student, select star from student.
Ravi, this is Vasu. While you are running the command, so right now we allocated almost 10 log files, correct? So
Right.
let's say I'm concerned about the disk. I accidentally created a lot more. Now I want to cut down. So if I have not used the log file, can I remove those files?
Yes, you can remove. Yes, you can remove. You can go ahead and physically remove it from disk, but system still thinks that there are 10 needed there, right?
No, isn't that going to corrupt? Instead of me going there, can I go back and do an update on that? Once I update, does it remove those files, or how does it work? So accidentally it created these numbers, as you said, it's forward moving, right? So if it creates until 113, even if I execute a command saying that instead of 10 extend files, if I say only 2, then what happens? Does it
Okay.
does it?
Okay, I see your point. Let's do that now. So I did it for like 10 times. So let me go back and see the logs. So it's still at a 104. It's just written the 486 pages, right? If I do it like continuous number of times, you might see this logs moving pretty fast. I move to 105. Right. So since the number of pages is more for each log, it took me a long time to move from one log to another log. So let me commit. It just takes some time for this 104 to go away and 114 to come in. Right. If I see you, the one you are saying was is this already allocated the 10 log files, right? Now my current log position is 105, but this allocated all of it. Now when I change this back to like the number 2, let's say when I change this back to I don't want these many, let's say I want only now 2. What happens to this already allocated log files, right? My understanding is it will does the cleanup on its own. So whatever is the current log file, which is like 107, it will do at the time of db2 deactivation, it will switch the log file. It starts from 108. I see only 108 and 109 after this operation. Right. db2 force applications all, db2 terminate, db2 force application all, db2 deactivate database test details. To activate database details. right? Now let's come back here and see. We might be still seeing this 108109 and the current log number 0. This is a little misleading. Let's do the first operation, whatever that can be the operation. Let's say create table T1, connect to utils. This is still no log written, so this has not synced. I'm at 108 as expected because 107 has the previous uh, commit point, and since I did deactivate and activate, it flushed. It just switched the log file. That is one of the expected behavior. Now let me create a table. I am still on 108. Let me insert into T10 values 549. So these are auto commit. I don't have to explicitly commit them. Yes, I mean, I see your point now. So this is not deleting those extra allocated files. If I overcommit on the log files, this is not removing it, right? So that's something that I don't know, but probably whether we can manually go there and delete so that this guy will take care of the allocation, right? So for example, db2 get db config for utils web minus I path. So what happens if I manually go here and delete these log files, right? I mhm.
I'm a bit concerned that it may corrupt because it will be expecting the file and you remove. When you try to write to that specific file, it always looks for it.
Yeah, that's something that probably you can just give it a try on how it is behaving, because this behavior is something that I haven't tested before. So my expectation is always that it should be able to, sorry, it should be able to clean up this before actually it restarts, right? Because I kind of reduce the number of logs from 10 to 2. The over allocated one should have been removed. But there is one more concept called log chain. The current log chain is 0, right? So in that scenarios, all of you just take some time in understanding what is the log chain. Um, in your personal time, the log chain is 0. If I know some kind of this situation, I can start a separate log chain altogether. When I do a log chain ID 1, what I'm trying to say here is if you go to this stream, um, sometimes you see under the log stream, you see a chain C00001002. There will be a separate directory. So I can start a separate chain. Under that chain, I can keep those two log files. That is one of the scenarios I see it, right? Um, but this is an interesting question. So uh, regarding on the corruption and all that, I don't know. I haven't tested it out, so I cannot comment on that. Right? But that is something worth trying. What happens if I physically go and delete it? When it looks for 110, will it allocate? But this is in some scenario not good because I was only expecting 2. But why would it overcommit on the disk? I don't really need to commit. Yep, that's something worth trying. Just remove one of it manually. Let's see how it does. I mean, will it allocate? Right. Yeah, that's one of the scenarios where we look at starting a different chain, instead of messing up with the existing one for whatever the reason. Right. Let me see if I can share something on that. Right. Okay. So coming back to our exercise, that is the exercise on log, some parameters that we play on, right? So as long as we make sure that we have enough space in these directories, the two important directories with respect to the log are get db config for, these are the two, one is new log path, another one is log arc method one. As long as we have enough space, we can also experiment using log second as -1, that is an infinite logging, just to safeguard, just not to stop the system when there is a long transaction. But this is not recommendable, because as a DBA we must know our system, right? So generally what we do is we give log primary as 250 or 256, the maximum number, just log second as 1 or 2. Make sure log file size is somewhere around a big number, because this is a 4 KB pages, a big number. So any other questions on the exercise 1 before I move on to 3? Because 2 we already looked at, enabling archive logging. So in 3 what we do is we will take these uh, databases offline backup, then we'll try to restore it in a separate database. Okay. Let me replace, where did I create this dbase one? Okay. So let's do the exercise 2. Here we are creating some database named dbase1. That's what we are using it in exercise 2. The paths does not exist. I'll be switching to root, and I'll be just creating those paths. Let me make dir. Right, I'm just saying that I keep all the table spaces within this folder directory, keep all important database configuration files such as dbconfig file, such as log control file, the checkpoint information, all such information in this directory. Once that is done, since this is a brand new database, I'll be setting this log arc method one, right? So similarly here I am also setting the log arc method two. Let's do this logs and mirror logs. Let me go to another and switch to root. Mount storage dbs. So instead of that, let me create one logs. Mount storage logs. Let me create a directory called dbs1. So I have a separate directory only to store transaction logs. Within this, I am trying to segregate at a database level. Within this, I'll just create two different directories. Now let's not do this way here. I'll show you the directory structure. So I'm not doing anything extraordinary here. I'm just going in mount storage. If I just go to mount storage, you will see multiple directories here. One is a logs, which holds a log method one, logs underscore mirror, which is a method two, separate directory for each database. Within each database directory, I have again subdirectories, one for database path, another one for storage. Okay, here the database creation completed. This is not a best practice. Where do we keep both storage and DB path within the same folder? But since you don't have a different, we generally give it under different file systems. Okay. Let me connect. This is off. Similarly, if you see 2 is also off, so log and mirror paths are not given. Of course, that's a default. So what I'll be doing is I'll be updating this to this value. I have already created these directories, right? So I just need to give them within the quotations. But that's expected. It needs a bounce. This is a mirror copy. So let me db2 deactivate database 1. So it might be the current connection itself. Deactivate. When you are trying to activate, it fails because we did an important change. This important change is related to the consistency or integrity of the database. So we need a stable backup to start with. So that's where it asks us to take a backup. right? We are starting an transaction logs concept. So transaction logs need a basic uh, stuff. So this is not something that we back up to device null. I mean, just don't write it anywhere, but we just doing that because anyway we'll do the full backup in a few minutes. So it just writes nowhere, but it makes database instance believe that okay, it's doing the backup. So till this is what we need for the next exercise, base dbase1. Now this we already know, we did like once already. This is the second time. Now what I do is I connected to the dbase1. Now this is what we do, db2 QC database immediate force connection. It will terminate all the connections that are connected to a database. Connect to dbase1, right? QC is kind of a single user state. It is trying to put the database in a single user state. Only database admins with those QC permissions can connect. Not database admins, any user with only QC. QC is something like, you can think it of uh, restrictive guy, right? You can give those permission to like n number of users. By default admin has it, but I can make some other user also like that. Now the important point in this offline backup is you don't want any connections to coming, right? Offline backup is something that you take when database is down. That's when I'm deactivating it. The moment I say QC, except me or except someone with the QC permissions, no one can connect. Not ordinary users. We don't give this privilege to ordinary users. Pretty much we don't give it beyond admin. Sometimes applications, some important applications will have the right to. Okay. Now this is the command to take a backup. Backup database name to specific directory. Let me see if I already have these backups created. No. Right. So here we are going for compress. So those are the things that you can experiment on your own. I will be just taking the plain standard backup. So db2 backup database name to mount backups. I mean, I literally have nothing in this database, right? I just created it. Uh, I mean, this is all steps, this also talks about incremental backup. That's something that you can explore. What I do is I'll just do uh, a simple table creation and insertion of a couple of records. Then I'll take a backup, right? Then I'll drop the database and I'll show you how to restore it. Offline backup. Then we go to online backup. Now let me get into the database. When I say list db directory, we see three different databases. Connect to dbase1. When I see tables, there is nothing. Let's say create table t1, column 1, varchar of 20. Insert into t1 values before offline backup. Terminate db2 deactivate database. Some of the important issues we face is we try to deactivate the database, but before you actually fire the offline backup, some or other connection comes. Sometimes some JDBC connections or ODBC connections, they keep trying you. You know, the first thing you need to do during offline backup is you need to bring down all the applications. But sometimes somewhere an automated connection keeps coming, right? So that's where you have to quickly run it. You know, pretty much you put db to deactivate and start the database. Sorry, start the database backup immediately within a split second. You know, before that connection comes in, right? Sometimes it's just a trial and error method. Also, sometimes, like I said, you might try to pull it in a QC mode. You might try to put it in a QC mode, but sometimes application users in a bad application design, they might still have the QC connection. Okay. So coming back here, let me take the backup where I have a T1 table. Now what I do is simply take the backup to this location. Mount backups, that is. So this is the timestamp. If I go to this mount backups, I see two different files here. So this is the one just created right now. Right. Okay. Now this has my table T1 information. What am I doing here? You know, here I'm taking also incremental backups. That something that you can experiment. You can give it a try. Here, let me go ahead and drop the database. Right. Connected I requested. So db2 list active databases. Why is utils active? db2 deactivate database utils. Why it is failing? So why can't I drop the database? db2 drop database. It's not the utils I want to write. I want to kill this db2 drop database one. The operation failed because specified database cannot be connected in the mode requested. Yes, this is because we kept this database in a QC mode. You remember? db2 and connect to dbase1. db2 on QC database. Now you say db2 terminate drop database dbase1. You see why I got that error here? I kept the database in a restrictive mode, right? So unless I bring the database out of the restrictive mode using unqc, command, it won't allow me to do any drop operations. Right now the dbase one is gone. Right now, just to restore it, all I need is this file. That's it. I don't need anything else. But once I have this, since this is 10.1 or above databases, I just need to construct this string. Let's build this. So what do I do here is restore database dbase1, right? I can give a separate name here, dbase2. So dbase1 is what? I don't have an incremental here. Let me take out it. Restore database dbase1. I should have a quotation here, and it should be ending with a quotation here too. Look at the restore database. This is offline, so I don't have to worry too much about transaction logs. So my backup is in this mount backups location. When it is taken, I need the timestamp. This is the timestamp that I need. Where do I want it to be restored? I can give completely different paths here. So let me go ahead and create dbase2, right? This is something like storing it in a complete different file system. I'm saying that I'm going to mount storage, make dir -p dbase2 base2 of storage underscore db3 db path. Right. So it's not necessary that the backup might have taken on a specific file system. In the sense, when I'm taking the backup of a database one, the storage path and db path might be pointing to this. It is not necessary while restoring it, the path has to be always same. So that is a beauty from 10.1 onwards. So there is a concept of this automatic storage. All I got to specify is these high level parameters. So I'm taking the database one, which is the backup which is in this mount backups taken at this timestamp on. I want to restore it into a separate file system with a separate database path and rename that database as a database2 without rolling forward. So this is the clause we need to give for offline backups restore. Now if you look at for backup, while I'm taking the backup, what is the storage path? Which is mount storage dbase1 storage underscore db3. What is the db path? Mount storage dbase1 db path. So these are the two paths which I have within these backups. The backup I have taken, but while restore, I'm redirecting directly, saying that from this restore it here dbase2. The db path should go here, and on the same lines, whatever is the dbase1, rename it as a dbase2. Right now, let's run it. Now without rolling forward is something that I can give it in the next command, or giving it in the same command makes sure that two steps are completed at the same time. So there is nothing to roll forward here, right? There are no transactional logs or anything. So while this is happening, we can see the database backup status. What is that command? Yes. While this goes, there's something called list utilities. When there is nothing written right now, while this restore or backup or a load is happening, there is a command called list utilities. It will show you the progress of the operation, how much completed, how much is remaining, that kind of information. Okay. Yeah, the restore is successful. Now let's see. db2 list db directory. Our expectation is it's a dbase2 should come. Now would I be able to connect to it? I should be. Now should I be able to see the tables that I created? Only one table that I created. I should be able to see it. What if I query from this table? I should be able to get an info saying that it's before backup, offline backup. That's what I can see. So what is the steps we followed at a high level? Very simple, you just take a backup. I don't care what is the file system or DB path your current backup is following. I can always write it into a new storage path and DB path during the restore time itself.
So if we want it in the same path, what can we just ignore this, Ravi?
Yes, you can ignore that, it will overwrite. No. It won't write it in the same path. If we ignore giving this, what it will do is it will by default write it into a home directory.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I mean, offline is no fun, okay? Offline is just simple, straightforward. Now let's go ahead and do the last exercise, which is online. Again, online is tricky, but again, it's very easy, right? So db2 backup database dbase1 online. This is the extra flag I have to say. And I have to say where to backup. We used to say this include logs, but it's not needed anymore. But some of the old scripts you still see referring it as include logs. So it used to be something like the current transactional logs also include as part of this backup, but it takes care of it by default. If there is a current active log in db2, the active logs are not moved to archive because active logs are needed for recovery. So it keeps those active logs as part of the backup itself. So you can also ignore without prompting. These are all optional. So if there is an yes option, it doesn't ask anything, right? But the point is, while restoring it, it's exact same restore as offline, but we just have to use extra option called log target. Remember this word. This is the only magic between offline and online. In online, you say log target because you included logs. You want to extract those logs somewhere. So let's say while backup is running, let's say for like 3 hours, during which a large transaction came and there were like 30 logs still in active state. All those logs are included as part of these mount backups. What are the backup you are taking? Now, once you do a physical restore, you have to apply all those logs, right? Either to roll back or whatever the reason. So you extract those logs into a separate file or separate directory. Sorry. This is very, very important. Log target, right? If you don't give log target, it tries to extract in whatever is the default log path. Whatever is the default log path, this is the default log path. If there is also the same log, for example, it is trying to extract S001, but there is also an S001 here. The extraction fails. The extraction fails means restore fails. Restore fails means you have to start the restore from scratch again. If you have waited 6 hours to restore to complete, then you have to start from zero again. Okay, very, very dangerous scenario. Now the same directory you give during the roll forward. I'll just run through it. Okay. Now what I'll be doing is I'll be connecting to this I'll be connecting to this db2 database. Connect to db2. Create table T2. Column 1 varchar of 30. Set into T2 values before of online backup. So this is saved. Now what I do is I'll open one unsaved transaction, this uncommitted transaction. I'll just keep it as it is. Now I say insert into T2 values. This is no commit. Okay. This is no commit. So this is not committed. Now I'll go to the other session. Then let me take the full backup. db2 backup database dbase2 online to mount backups. I can say include logs, but this just comes up with the old practice, right? These are not needed at all anymore. When I say include logs, the current active transactional log, which actually includes this uncommitted transaction, will also be part of it. ls minus ltr. This is the timestamp. Now let me terminate this. I did not commit here. Now let me drop this database. Okay, now database is also gone. Now let me switch to root and create a couple of directories. What is this? Mount. Another one is storage. Make dir dbase3 dbase3 and storage underscore db3 dbase3 dbpath. Change mode 777. Okay. Now coming back to this online restore, it's again the same thing, same command. Restore database dbase2 from mount backups For the timestamp, this is the timestamp. On where do I want it restored? db3 into dbase 3. Here I specify that log target, and I have to specify an empty directory, right? I have to specify an empty directory. Mount storage log target dbase 3, and then I say without prompting. I haven't created this directory yet. I'll just go ahead and create this directory. So this is some pre-work we have to do. Mount backups, make dir log d dbase 3. The directory must be empty. The directory must be present before, right? So let me start the restore. I know that this is the restore here. So all I do is db2 restore database dbase2 from mount backups, taken at timestamp. Right, it will go to this directory and look for the file with this name starting with dbase2. This is a full restore, so it look for 0. It constructs on its own. The whole string it constructs on its own. After this, I specify on and db path on. So if I want to rename the database, I specify. Till here we have already looked at it, right? This is nothing new. In our offline backup we looked at. Here you extra specify log target. This is what something you specify log target. This is an empty directory without prompting. Reason code 2. It's failed to extract. Maybe some permissions issue. So it said reason code 2. The log target path. The path is no such file. Thought I created. No. Where did I create it then? Make dir log d. Right. So now I think it should go. Right. Now now I wanted to show you these list utilities. Come on. Yes, okay. While the restore is happening, this is how you see the progress, right? Right. This is right? So the restore is completed. Okay. Now if you see db2 list db directory, you would be able to see the dbase3, right? But when you see db2 get db config for dbase3, if you say grep -i pending, you see roll forward pending. You see roll forward pending. You just did a physical restore. You still have to do a roll forward. Now to roll forward, you need that log target. When you say mount storage log t dbase3, so you see the log file that it extracted. This is a log file it needs for recovery, right? Now the next command I will prepare here, db2 roll forward database dbase3 to end of logs and complete. So just go till the log files you see within this directory and don't look for anything extra, right? No retrieve is an important command we give, saying that don't try to look for any more files. If something is uncommitted, just uncommitted. Okay. So there will be some other scenarios where after applying this S003, whatever is the log you see here, maybe S004 and S005, then don't use this and complete, right? If you say and complete, yeah, it says that okay, roll forward is complete. Generally we do this as part of two different commands: roll forward database name to end of logs or to a specific point in time, right? End of backup itself, right? When you say end complete, it just says that okay, it brings your database out of roll forward state. No, if you want to apply more logs, just say make sure you remove this and complete. Okay. Right. So now the roll forward status is not pending. So let me see this db2 list db directory, db2 get db config for dbase3 grep -i pending. Nothing is pending. Now let's connect to the database, connect to dbase3. You should be able to see the table. I should not be able to see that uncommitted transaction. You see, I'm able to see this before online backup. But you remember I was in middle of insert statement, something like testing. This is not committed. So you don't see that uncommitted record because it's rolled back. Right. I mean, initially to understand it, I struggled a lot. But the key in this online restore is using this log target, right? When you especially move it from one server to another server, log target, and you specify overflow log path. When you don't specify this overflow log path, where it will look forward for the roll forward is by default in your db config for dbase3 grep -i logs. If you don't specify log target or if you don't specify overflow log path, it will look for that file in this default location. Whatever is the log file it needs, it looks for this in this directory. So that is what something we are bypassing through this log target. We are saying that okay buddy, don't extract the log files which are part of backup into the default location. I mean, you can extract it still, but if the same file already exists there, it cannot overwrite and your whole restore fails. Instead of that, it's always safer to have an extra empty directory and extract the logs which are part of the backup and use this same directory as a overflow log path. That's it. You take care of these two and restore is just as smoother as it can be. Right. So sometimes make sure that you don't give end complete. Roll forward database name complete. This is another command. Sometimes you just don't give it as part of you can just take this out of it here. Till you say complete, it won't complete. Or some databases have complete, some database sometimes you say stop. Both are same. See refer the same functionality. So restore database is a three-step process. One is you do a physical restore. As part of the physical restore, you extract the log files and put it at one location. You use the same location to roll forward. Sometimes you have to apply on top of this maybe n number of other logs too, right? So that's when you do a roll forward again. So the important thing for roll forward is where are these log files. You just have to mention it. If you don't mention it, by default it will go and check in the default location. If it did not find the continuous log, it just fails. Okay. Right. Any questions? I know. This is something that I want you to practice. Right. In two different scenarios, you can practice by taking backup on this uh, one VM and create another VM and do a restore there. Or between the instances, you take a backup on db2 inst1 and do a restore on db2 inst2. Right. I mean, this is a much needed exercise. This one unload.